Good, Tiffany? All right. Okay, let's call to order the Newport Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting of August 27th, 2024. Can we have a roll call, please?
Willis Gregory.
Here.
Neil Connor.
Here.
Joe Clare. Phil Cruikshands.
Here.
Ron Raw.
Here.
Steve Burling. And City Manager Fromey.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes from our special meeting on July 9th, 2024? And if so, were there any changes or corrections? Is there a motion to accept?
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
So we have a first and a second to approve the minutes of July 9th, 2024. Can we have a roll call?
Willis Gregory.
Yes.
Neil Connor.
Yes.
Phil Cruikshands.
I was absent, so.
Ron Raw.
Yes. Thank you. Before we begin our public hearing, I need to make a statement that anybody present here this evening, including the city staff, the applicant, the board attorney, and all those present in our audience tonight, whether in support of or in opposition of any application presented here this evening, have the right to give testimony and cross-examination. If you wish to speak, I do ask that you step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Thank you. Our first order of business is P&Z 24-06. The applicant is the city of Newport, and they're requesting a couple zone changes. One from the I-1 zone to the CDBG, no, I'm sorry, yes. The
I-1 to
I-1
R3.
zone to the R3, I'm sorry. And the second one is from the CDB fringe zone to CBD zone. I guess my first question would be, are we handling that all as one case, or are we reviewing each of those separately and voting on those separately?
So it was applied for under one action by the city. So I'll present it as one. The board can obviously look at these two separate zone changes as independent. It's just under one particular application since it was the city.
Okay.
All right.
Well, go ahead, Brian, and bring us up to date on this application and what
So
the city is proposing.
The first of the two map amendments that are in front of the board tonight is the area 500 block of Hodge Street. And it is in this area left inadvertently from the T-zone map amendment that was done a couple of years back. This has essentially created a spot zone by default, and was always intended on the future land use maps and the comprehensive plan as this being traditional neighborhood type zoning. This was at one point in time R3 city's history, and it was changed to I1, and then now we're going back to R3 with that T-zone still in place. Again, this is identified in the comprehensive plan for traditional residential neighborhoods. Also, really, moreover, this is a housekeeping measure to have the zoning look more like what the neighborhood is, which is residential. Some of the complications when you have an I-1 zone over top of residential housing, it gets kind of sticky when you're dealing with even things like fences or sheds or uses of buildings. I think at the time when this was changed to I-1, I think the hope was that it would spur some sort of redevelopment in that area, which clearly it did not. The second of the two zone changes is the 600 block of York Street on the east side of the street only, from CBDF zone to the CBD zone. Again, as indicated in the future land use plan, This area was intended to be changed to CBD. In terms of the existing uses and businesses in this area, the zone change does not make any of those non-conforming. The existing businesses as they are permitted uses in the CBD zone. The CBD zone is less restrictive than the CBDF zone. It allows for greater flexibility of uses, also opens things up to things like bars and taverns and different things such like that. But like I said, the existing uses are, would remain as permitted uses.
Thank you. Is there anybody on the board that has any questions at this point? Brian, you said that previously these were, especially the I-1 zone, these were in prior comp plans that they were R3 and then at some point were changed. Do you know how far back that went?
Long ago.
Quite a while back?
Yeah, well before my time as zoning administrator.
Okay.
And like I said, I think some of this was intended to try to spur some of that economic development, and so.
And that particular block is all residential?
It's residential housing up till the area of the T-zone. So the T-zone comes in towards the end of the block. There's a large, I believe it's Rolfe Monument there, and then two houses next to that that was changed into T-zone. And then so it left this small area of I-1. I think it was just done by inadvertently by omission. I think it was always intended to be changed to R3 with that zone change for the T-zone a few years back.
The current comp plan does show that is residential, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. So I brought the land use, the future land use map from the presentation from the 2020 comp plan. It shows it as traditional neighborhood. The land use maps in the comp plan here didn't necessarily specify what zone is what. It just said residential or, you know, some of the other uses or potential uses, if that makes sense. I do have a copy of the T-zone amendment that we did a couple of years ago. If the board would like to look at it, it does clearly show that this was a kind of a area that was just left inadvertently.
Okay. I don't have any other questions about this particular one. Does anybody have any questions about this? Is there any member of the audience that would like to speak either for or against this particular zone change? If you do, please step up. No, just right here, please.
What?
I'm sorry, we should have turned
Yeah, I was going to
this
say,
backwards for you. Sorry.
it's turned around.
We couldn't have made this any more awkward if we tried. I don't
I know, I'm gonna bring my back to the podium.
I didn't even notice it was.
There you go.
And if you would, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Deborah Fightmaster. I'm speaking for Jerry Kovacic, and he lives at 516 Hodge.
Okay.
Okay, he bought this property as a two-family, and he had a renter upstairs, and then the renter passed away, and he wants to re-rent the apartment. Is the zoning going to have any effect on his ability to rent his apartment?
No.
No. Actually, it'd probably be a little simpler because it's being changed from an I-1, which is industrial zone, to an R3, which is a multifamily.
Okay,
And so that would
That's
actually
good.
probably make it a little bit easier for him to do that.
and I guess the other question, if I'm right, is about the deck.
I don't think it's for this meeting.
Yeah, I don't know. He was talking about putting a roof over his deck. It'd still be open, but it would just be a roof. Does that have anything to do with the conditions of the zoning?
That you would have to talk to the, I guess, the development department.
I swear I turned that off. I'm sorry.
Without looking at the actual zoning code for that, I don't know off the top of my head if that would prevent putting a roof on the deck, but it would be advisable for him to contact the city
Okay.
and look at the regulations and see what all those specific regulations
All right.
would stipulate. And they could tell you that very, very easily, very quickly.
This change to the zoning will actually make his property more conforming to the residential zone that it would be in rather than the industrial zone. That's why I had said in my initial comments is the industrial zoning for where there's residential type housing, it does get a little difficult to try to fit that within people that are still living in those areas. So it really won't affect his ability to rent at all. It's a continuation of a use as it is. I would assume it was a non-conforming before. I would believe it still is a non-conforming, which means it can just continue to be used. The deck, typically those are no real big deal, especially in the residential zones. He just needs to come in and apply and talk to us, so we're glad to help him out.
I did that for a shed in the back, so we know that procedure. I guess it's a-
Yeah. Yep.
It's not gonna affect him, is it, Rolf, for the industrial?
No, this is actually not touching his property. And so this is actually, I think it's 5 or 6 houses, just on the one side of Hodge Street. So I'm sure people saw the sign and assumed it was more area than what it is, but it is just related to those handful of houses towards Brighton.
Between Hogan Alley and Dodge, I guess.
So yes, so it's just on that one side behind Clee Wholesale there, just up in there. So I'll even show you here.
My backyard, I know where that's at.
So it's just, see this area here outside the red, it's just those houses right there that are affected. So none of this is affected.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you. I guess we don't have to say.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak either for or against this proposal?
Matt Brandt, 611 York Street. Changing for the business zone, does that have any impact whatsoever on the ability for me to rent apartments above a business?
So, no, it's similar process than what it was CBDF. Do you have existing apartments now?
I don't. There haven't been ever, but that's what they were back in the 70s, 80s, so I'm trying to get to that point. So I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any variance or anything else that would change that.
So it really wouldn't change anything with that, and there's a lot of factors that goes into play, that
Sure.
parking and things like that. What this does do is in the CBD, the new zone, if the commission approves this, it does allow for short-term rental, as well as residential uses.
Okay.
So both of which would take a hearing before the Board of Adjustment, but those are typically pretty straightforward.
Yep.
We help people along with those all the time. So there's lots, as you can tell, there's lots of residential uses in these areas
Oh, yeah.
already. So, and the city really promotes that and pushes that.
Well, I was just trying to understand the real difference between the two zones themselves, and I know you did mention the allotment of being able to put in taverns and bars and that type of thing, which
Yep.
was not allowed before. So just wanted
right.
to clarify for the residential end of it.
The other thing too, just for the board's information and for the audience, is that the CBD also has much less restrictive setbacks and height requirements as well. So all in all, it is a less restrictive zone than the current zoning that's there now.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak either for or against either one of the proposals here this evening? Okay. We can do it as one, or we can do it separately. Dan, do you have any preference on that?
Based on the fact we decided one number and Ryan's presentation was kind of all comprehensive, unless the board decides that something different, we can do it as one.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Have any comments?
No? Okay. Thank you. Well, at this point, we'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed zone changes from, in the area indicated in the staff report, to change from I-1 to R3, and the other area indicated in the staff report, CBDF to CBD, zone change. From the testimony we heard this evening, as well as the staff presentation and other information, that that this is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, and we would recommend approval of the map amendment.
Which part? No, not on that. So this is the statute. It just says.
Covered everything.
It's different.
But it doesn't.
Do we cover everything that,
So the statute just requires the findings of fact include testimony and evidence presented to the board. It doesn't have to go into any of the other particulars, you know, detrimental to the health, safety, that type of thing. It doesn't have to go into that. I will make one comment that in the staff report, we're recommending this approval pursuant to KRS 100.2111, which is the alternate procedure for zoning map amendments.
okay,
Yep.
thank you. So we have a first.
I'll second.
We have a second to approve both zoning map changes as stated by Bill and approved, or seconded by Neil. Can we have a roll call, please?
Willis Gregory.
Yes.
Neil Connor.
Yes.
Bill Cruz-Shans.
Yes.
Ron Rawl.
Yes. Okay. That takes care of that. Appreciate you folks coming, the comments from everybody. And if you have any concerns or questions about, you know, rental property or putting decks and roofs over your deck, as you mentioned this evening, yeah, just talk to Brian or the staff here at the city, and they can guide you through that process. So, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brian, do we have any other business we need to take care of tonight?
Nothing other, this kind of wraps up a lot of the map amendments that we needed to do. I'm working on a updated zoning map. Our official zoning map's a little dated, to say the least. Get a lot of phone calls on that, so currently working on that, and I'll bring that to the board once I get that completed and let you guys take a look at it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, that's right, too. We're going to be bringing some, the cannabis ordinance had first read in front of the city commission, so that will be coming to this commission, I would assume, after the second read, and it passes. So we're working on a text amendment for that as well.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I have nothing further.
All right. Any board members have anything? Motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
We have a first and a second for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.